Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Tim Heale from the UK near the Isle of Wight. He told me specifically where it was, and I didn't know where that was, so Isle of Wight was close enough. We're going to get right back to him in 2 seconds. Please stop what you're doing. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. Get a t-shirt, coffee mug. Buy one of my 12 currently available books of historical dream literature. Great historical works on sleep and dreams from some of the greatest minds of the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. That's enough of my housekeeping. Back to the guest, which is the reason we're all here. Tim, you have a podcast, basically biographical, modern biographies, ordinary people, extraordinary stories. You can find the Tim Heale podcast on YouTube and podcasting sites. How'd I do? Did I capture most of the essence of it?
I reckon you got there somewhere.
Thank you very much.
It's about right.
So how did you get into that? What motivated you to start collecting these stories?
Well, it started back about 4 years ago. I was working on Ancestry. And I was looking at my family's history. I found my great-grandfather who lived in Portsmouth, which is just a spit from where I live now. And I thought, it'd have been great to go back and have a chat with him because he was a chief stoker in the Royal Navy.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, wish I could have had a chat with him. Unfortunately, he died in 1930. So, and I haven't got a time machine, so I can't go back and have a chat with him. But when we got into lockdown a couple of years ago, I got to thinking, well, if I don't tell my story, nobody's going to know what I did. So that's when I started a podcast. So I managed to do 24 half-an-hour episodes of my life. And
wow.
So if there's anybody out there that's struggling at getting to sleep, put one of those on. It cures your insomnia, I don't think.
That's fantastic.
So I got to the end of those 24-hour episodes. We're still in lockdown. I think, what do I do now? So I did a couple more episodes of some more in-depth stuff that I'd done. I did 2 trips to Colditz Castle in Germany. And anybody that knows what Colditz is, it was a prisoner of war camp during the Second World War.
Oh, yeah.
And I did 2 trips there, one way back in the early 90s after the wall had come down. Me and a mate, we jumped on the Rattler. We got the old European travel card, and we went there by train, and we were playing the escape game. So we were trying to blend in with the locals and everything like that. So it was great fun. We were traveling by train, and we went from Colditz, and we went across to Auschwitz and did that. And Auschwitz shook my mate up quite a lot, and we were going to go on to Prague, but he was so shaken up from what he'd seen that we got from the middle of Poland in sort of where Auschwitz is down near Krakow, back to the UK inside 24 hours on the Rattlers.
Wow. Yeah.
And then a couple of years back, another mate and I jumped on our motorbikes and we did a bit of a tour around Europe, and our ultimate goal was to get to Colditz. So now Colditz Castle is it's a youth hostel, so you can go and stop in Colditz Castle.
You can just hang out and stay there overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. We had two nights there, and there's a museum in the castle now. When we first went there, there was a small museum a couple of sort of blocks away, but now it's actually in the castle, and they take you around and they show you where some of the escape routes was. They've got a made up glider, a replica of the actual glider that they were going to use, and actually it's a floor down from where it was actually built. But yeah, it's a fantastic. If anybody wants to go and have a visit of Colditz Castle, it's fascinating.
That is pretty cool. And you mentioned in conjunction with the motivation for starting collecting these stories. You mentioned, your visit to Auschwitz, and we look, what do we have today but the record that people made at the time of the things that happened.
Yeah.
You can go there today, but you're not seeing what they saw. The only thing that could preserve that for us was getting it on camera, getting it on film, taking those pictures, collecting those stories. Or if there were no historians, we wouldn't know what happened yesterday, in a real, very real sense.
So, and then the other one I did in depth, I did a job for a mate of mine. He had his own truck, and I didn't have much work on at the time, so I did 6 trips for him from the UK down to Morocco and back. So I talked about those on the podcast, and then I got to that, I think, well, what do I do now? So I thought, well, what do I do other people? So I thought, well, who am I going to do? Well, let's pick on my mother.
That is a great place to start, honestly, with your own family, because who else is going to preserve those? Yeah. So
I sat and had a real good chat with my mum, and we got down her story. I mean, she's knocking on a bit. She's about 82, heading towards 83. I mean, at the moment, she's still spending my inheritance, but
and God willing, she will for a bit longer, huh?
Yeah. She doesn't want to go yet. So I mean, she's had COVID and all the rest of it. So, and that ain't finished her off.
She's a real fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, she came through the Second World War. I mean, she promised me that she didn't start it, but she turned up at the beginning of it.
I was just around. It just happened.
Yeah. So, and then I moved on from there, and I'm now up to, I think I've done 76, 77 other people so far.
Wow. Our episode count's just about the same. If we don't count your first run of 24, if we count those all as one, then we've got, this is actually episode number 76 for me too. 76th dream interpretation interview.
Well, say I'm up to 76 of other people.
Nice.
I think I did. There's 24 of me, and then it all kind of dried up for a bit. So I went off on a Thirsty Thursday rant. So put a few podcasts together where I just have a rant about sort of what's going on around the sort of political and things that some of the muppetry that people are getting up to today.
There's plenty around.
And having a pop at the woke brigade.
Yeah. Well, that's I run into some of the same problems as far as every now and again I just take a break. I take a week off because I got nobody. I'm sure there's folks out there who are like, oh, he's too busy to talk to. I'm really not too busy. Please come on my show. I'll record a month's worth in advance if I can get away with it during a given week. Then there's other folks out there who are a bit too shy to put their face on camera. Fair enough. Some folks who want to talk, but it's too personal. As I've said in the past, there's only 2 types of dreams I won't do, because that, I think it belongs in real counseling and therapy, and that's childhood abuse or sexual assault stuff. I just, don't want to go down that road. I mean, that's, in my opinion, it's not grist for entertainment. Should be an entertaining conversation, and people should enjoy listening to it. That's one thing. But the other thing is that needs to be handled in a very professional situation. That's not what this is. I am not offering counseling and therapy. I can't do that in this format, nor should anyone try, in my opinion. So, no. But otherwise, I'll talk to people about anything.
Well, I do. I've started doing a Thirsty Thursday live stream, which we go out for 2 hours on a Thursday evening. And sometimes it's a bit nerve-wracking when guests say they're going to turn up and then they don't. And then there's 2 hours of me rabbiting on about all sorts of stuff. But I have an open forum where I invite people to ask questions and stuff like that, and I have guests on. And then other weeks I'll have a special. So I've done a few specials so far. I've done veterans' mental health. I've done normal people's mental health issues. We did a sailing or boating special where we got loads of sailors in and talking about sailing and boating and that sort of thing. This week we're talking about what am I talking about? God, what I'm talking about? I'm talking about veterans issues and problems that they've had transitioning out of the military into the civilian world.
Yeah,
and I'm just working on. We've got local elections coming up in a couple of weeks' time, so I've emailed all my local councillors. So I'm going to do a council special.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether I can do it before the election or whether I'll have to wait until after. It depends on what the election rules are, whether we can.
Gotcha.
But I've invited them all along, so I'll see how many sort of take the bait. And
that is an interesting distinction in America. There's no blackout window before. I mean, people are talking about it while people are in the voting booths. They're talking about it in the media, but UK's got a little bit of a thing where they're like, take a break. You've said everything you need to say. Let people think.
Yeah. So from that perspective, there are certain rules about electioneering.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have to go out after, but it'll be putting local councillors on the spot, asking them difficult questions, what they're doing for the local area. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that sounds like great fun. Well, there's a great similarity, I think, between what we do. It's so open-ended. So the only thing my show requires is a dream. Everybody dreams. Most people maybe don't remember them, don't have one they think is important, but that throws the door wide open. There's not a narrow slice of humanity. It's anybody and everybody. And so with the dream as an excuse, I get to talk to people and get what are they into? What do they do? Get a look at their life. And very similar to what you do, you just talk to anybody biographically. Tell me about yourself. Everyone has a self. Everyone is a person who has a story, whatever it is. I love that.
I haven't come across anybody yet that's not happy about talking about themselves.
I was going to say you hadn't come across anyone yet who wasn't actually a person with a story.
Well, that everybody's got a story, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to sort of drag it out of them. And most of the people I've done have said that, well, I haven't thought about that for donkey's years.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of rattling the grey matter and sort of dragging stuff out that they'd forgotten. So
very cool.
It's a lot of fun. I'm having an absolute ball in doing what I'm doing.
Nice. And that is very important. I think you mentioned, I don't know if you said it on air or just prior, but that you're retired. So you're going to do something every day, even if it's sit on a couch and watch TV. That's doing something. Or you can do something else. You can do something that inspires you more, that feels more productive, but that's not something that feels more important, gathering stories. And I think, in terms of when I talk to people, if you've watched every episode, you've heard me talk about this 10,000 times, but what is my concept of a wizard? It is someone who has achieved an advanced age. So they've got the long beard and the staff because they're, walk maybe slower, but it's that speaking magic words from long experience and being able to see the future because you've seen it all before in that sense. So, and what do you do when you get to an advanced age? You get ready to die, or you try to give back as much as you can for as long as you can. So that's, I'd say most people who get to retirement and then just turn into a vegetable, they don't last long. So.
Well, I'm not planning on dying anytime soon. I've got a ticket to 102. So I'm going to die once I've had my second telegram off the king.
that is pretty cool.
King then.
Everyone who makes it to 100 or 101 gets a telegram.
Yeah, when you get to 100, you get a telegram off. At the moment, it's off the Queen.
Wow. I never knew that. I learned something completely brand new today. That's amazing. Yeah. Maybe we should start that tradition around here. Oh, not a bad idea. I mean, we're not going to bring back a king, but, unless it's me. I volunteer to be the first wizard king of Oregon. We'll see how that goes.
Brilliant.
If you feel like we've given a good amount of time to your history and what you do and how you do it.
I haven't even touched on my history.
Well, that's true. The raison d'etre.
We could be here all night.
Right. I just don't want to cut anybody off if they have more to say about what they're doing now and why they feel it's important.
Yeah.
But I do want to get to...
If anybody really wants to know about me, go and have a listen to my podcast. How's that?
For sure. And I don't know if I asked if you had like a private website or no, just podcasting platforms.
It goes up on Buzzsprout, and Buzzsprout push it out onto all the popular ones, Apple,
gotcha,
Spotify, you name it, it's out on there.
Fair enough. And that's good enough. You don't have to have one. Lots of folks I talk to have a website, and they like people to go there directly because that's the best source. But they can, I'll find at least a couple of links to your stuff, and it'll be right now in the description below for everybody listening.
Yeah.
And for the folks listening on podcast site, because I put this up on my own website where I have my books and different stuff. So I've also started collecting. So this is just one small tangent. And speaking of history, is I'm reproducing what I hope are definitive versions of these works of historical dream literature. So I'm also starting to compile my own footnote master list of basically an encyclopedia of all the different people that have ever referenced each other or written about dreams going back to the Greeks and before Babylonians, I think. So hopefully by the time I'm done going through all these influential works that basically all the stuff that Sigmund Freud would have read before he wrote his book on dreams that then kind of turned a corner into making it a psychological practice, all of that stuff. And yeah, so I'm doing my own kind of history project here too. As I'm getting older, I'm finding myself more fascinated with what happened 500 years ago. That's some pretty cool stuff too.
You need a time machine to go back and talk to people about it.
I probably would. No, number one stop, Socrates. I'll have to learn Greek, but I think it's worth it. I'd go back and talk to that guy. He'd probably tell me I'm too fat. I need to wrestle more. Something like that. Okay, so I think what everyone's been waiting for, if we get into what your dream is, you said it was recurring. I'm just going to listen and write down whatever details you give me, and then, don't worry about leaving anything out. We'll go back through and open up some more of those doors for additional information. So I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Right. So this dream I have now, it's something that could have been, that isn't, if that makes sense. And I should have had an older brother. He was born on the 20th of December, 1956. He died 16 hours later. So he didn't have a life.
Yeah.
But this dream I have is the life that he could have had.
Wow.
And it kind of runs in parallel with mine. He kind of does stuff that I've done or want to have done. If I'd have lived his life, it would have been slightly different to mine. He would have gone to grammar school. He would have been cleverer than me. I suffer from dyslexia, and so from that point of view, that scuppered my chances of going to grammar school.
Yeah. So just to be most specific, to give us the best chance, you're probably going to have multiple instances of this type of dream throughout your life, perhaps.
Yeah.
What is perhaps the most recent one that stands out in your mind as a good exemplar? And then if we just nail that one in specific, we can then start seeing how it might relate to some of the other ones.
Well, I've started to write it all down. I've literally gone through and it's pretty much chronological.
Okay.
Writing his life story. Yeah. So I mean, he when he was at school, when he went to nursery school, he met his best mate, and they were kind of best mates all the way through. I mean, they did everything together. His best mate, his mother was Swedish. When they were, I think, about 7 or 8, my brother went off to Sweden. They used to go to Sweden every summer and every sort of Christmas with his mother's to go and see her family. His father was English. His mother was Swedish. They spoke Swedish at home. My brother spent a lot of time round his house. He, from a very early age, he spoke Swedish. So he's and every year in the summer holidays, my parents let him go to Sweden with his best mate, and they were like a couple of peas in the pod, inseparable.
Gotcha.
That's how I see his life going.
Certainly, yeah.
And as the years have gone on, he's returned to Sweden every summer and every winter at Christmas. So he's never spent Christmas with us. Not since he was about 7.
So can you think of the last time you had one of these dreams that had a kind of a specific beginning and ending, a little bit of a story arc to it, you know, the images you saw as you were sleeping?
Let's think about it. I mean, fairly recently, I had a sort of a fairly recent dream of what he was up to.
Where did that one start? What was the kind of the opening scene in your mind?
I think it was one of his kids' weddings. So we're all at a wedding, and his best mates there. They married the same sort of girls from the same village in Sweden. They met when they used to go back there for on holiday, and they were best mates, and the 4 of them have been best mates all the way, inseparable. They've all done the same thing. As they've grown up, the kids have come along at the same sort of time, so the kids are the same sort of age. This is all sort of gone on for years. I've been sort of having these dreams on and off about his life, and the way it's interacted with my life, and the sort of things we would have done together, and the problems that we've had with our sisters and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So in this most recent dream, being at this wedding of your brother's children, what kind of events took place? Where did you first appear in the dream? You're watching them at the altar. You're all at a reception waiting to go in. It was at a specific location. How would you kind of, if you were to tell the story of the dream, how would that kind of play out?
I think it's sort of, it was, I think the morning of the day of the wedding, and you know, I mean, and it's all going a bit crazy.
Sure.
Typical sort of morning of a wedding where a sibling or a child's getting married, and the mother's running around like a bit of a headless chicken, being Swedish, and the funny part about it, because his best mate family only spoke Swedish at home, that he decided that he would do the same for his kids. So whenever his wife was getting a little bit stressed, she'd be going off in Swedish, which was ever see the Swede go off where they're normally speaking sort of English to people, and then they go off into Swedish and having a bit of a mare. So things started to unravel. I mean, the flowers arrived and that sort of thing, and then we've got going in the right car, and where we're meeting up, and the caterers turned up, and so all that sort of fun thing was sort of going on in the morning, and then the whole thing. We got to the church and everything was serene, and it was just one of those picturesque, brilliant days where everything just fell into place, and everybody was really happy for the couple, and yeah, that's that's one of the vivid dreams I had. It's just the funny part about seeing the Swede. So
Gotcha. So that was so the dream ended, say, before the ceremony began, or you kind of have a vague concept it went through.
It kind of sort of followed through into the reception after.
Okay.
And listening to some of the speeches. It's the father. So the father of the bride's speech was quite amusing, but the best man had people crying. I mean, literally side splitting. I mean, it was so funny talking about his son and how they met and all the rest of it. And so
okay, well that sounds like the broad strokes of it. And then my process is just to go back through it kind of from the beginning, get a little more as specific as you can. You either remember things or you don't. You saw something or you didn't. So you said it all started out in the morning, and the way you described it was that you weren't actually at the church yet. Say, where were you?
No, this is back at the house.
And this was at your brother's house?
Yeah, my brother's house, yeah.
Okay.
I was driving one of the wedding cars, so I was taking the groom and the best man to make sure that they got to the church on time. It's just a funny dream.
Oh yeah.
I could see it so clearly. I sometimes sort of think, did that really happen? And it didn't.
Yeah.
And that's the weird part about it. So I don't know whether my brother's in a parallel universe going along.
I was going to say, there's a lot of theories about that. And actually, speaking of historical dream literature, I'm going through these, and they've known about this for going on 2-3 centuries now, that some people dream so vividly they wake up thinking it was real for long enough to just get get their bearings in the present wakeful surroundings. Then they realize, oh, I'm not at the place I was when I woke up, So, I'm kind of jealous of those experiences myself. I would like to dream so vividly that I questioned whether it was, maybe I should be careful what I wish for, but that seems amazing. It seems like something that might be quite an just awe-inspiring experience. And I appreciate you volunteering the idea of that it's funny and you're laughing. And so the whole dream had a very, if we, positive or negative, it had a very positive, upbeat, hopeful vibe to it.
Yeah, it's most of his life has been sort of blessed, really.
Okay.
I mean, it's some of the I mean, go back to when we was kids, and I'd be jealous of him going off to Sweden for his summer holiday. And I'm stuck at home with bloody sisters. Want to hang around all the time, because he was sort of almost 18 months older than me. I mean, he got to do all of that, and I got lumbered with my sisters, getting us into trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was any trouble, you could be sure I was at the bottom of it. somewhere along the line.
So when you were at this dream house of your brothers, it was not his kid's house. It was his house, but his kids were there, so that he was the focal point, so to speak, of where they would come together to then launch off on that next adventure. I'm curious about the house itself. Was it always the same house? Like once you got an image of this is where he lives, it was the same house in every dream, or is that a little more vague?
No, he's had a few houses. I mean, he lived in quarters for a long time.
Gotcha.
I mean, he joined the Royal Marines, whereas I joined the Army. And in my dreams, I mean, he did 4 years in the Royal Marines, got fed up being away all the time. I joined the Army about a year after him, and I was being posted to Germany, and had some stability, and so him and his best mate decided that they could get out of the Royal Marines, and they got out of the Royal Marines and come and join the Army with me, come to my battalion, and we were serving in Germany, in Berlin at the time, and they were married by then, and I got married when I got to Berlin, so used to see them quite a lot, and that's when we started having kids.
Well, I was actually just going to ask you about that. So it seems like a lot of your dreams they involve you and him both going through similar life circumstances kind of contemporaneously. Yeah. So there's very much a reflection of what you're experiencing and what you would imagine how it would be, the same or different for him. Did you have kids that were getting married at the time you had this dream, or not this specific dream?
No, but my life was slightly different. I mean, my marriage broke up, the first marriage broke up, and sort of left 2 kids from that marriage. One of them I'm in touch with and been in touch with pretty much all the way through, apart from a bit. The other one didn't really know me. But my brother, all the way through, I guess he had a really solid, stable marriage all the way through. The same with his mate. I mean, and the 2 girls. I mean, they met in Sweden when they were about 7, 8, or 9, somewhere around about then, and the dream I had about my brother when he met his wife, I forgot what I called her, Petra. He fell in love with her the first time he actually put eyes on her, and she kind of felt the same about him. But it was 3 or 4 years later that they actually sort of recognised the fact that they were both in love with each other, and her best mate had always fancied his mate. So it's that's
which one was the kid getting married? I'm sorry.
It's a crazy mixed up. But I've been writing this thing for several years now, and trying to imagine his life and then dreaming about it. So it's going to be a book one day, I'm sure. The life that never was.
That's fascinating. The idea of like, here's an entire, like just to whoa, my chair made a sound. Just to kind of encapsulate what's happening here. It's like you had an older brother that lived 16 hours, and for the rest of your life, knowing that he existed once, you've had recurring dreams where he is still alive and living an entire life, and it just keeps coming back. I've never experienced this or talked to anyone who's ever had anything like this kind of phenomenon before.
And some of these, they're so vivid, and I have to think, but he's not here.
Yeah.
I never met him.
So he had kids in this dream, and one of his kids was getting married. Was it a boy or girl, or
there's a boy getting married?
Boy getting married. Gotcha. So that was why
he got a sister as well. So him and his mate, they had the two boys and two girls born within a day of each other. So it's
gotcha.
They kind of mirrored that.
Yeah, there's a lot of mirroring going on in terms of even mirroring in terms of same and reversals. It's very fascinating. So this was his older boys, or we had one boy and one girl.
Yeah. So the boys were older.
The boys' wedding.
The boys were born in Berlin, same as my daughter was born in Berlin.
Gotcha.
So the three of them, all born in Berlin, all within a few weeks of each other.
Very much a connection there, yeah.
And then the girls were, the two girls were born in Northern Ireland.
So where was your brother's house in the dream? Where did you imagine it to be?
He was living, I don't know, where was it? Wasn't far from here. I think he was living. I can see the house. It's a beautiful house. It's sort of a kind of a double fronted house. It's a detached house. Sort of window either side of the front door. Bedrooms upstairs. It's a nice 4-bedroom house, nice garden, nice garage on the side. I mean, it was one of those sort of picture postcard type houses. You know, the typical sort of houses that were built back in the sort of 30s during the sort of before the war, that was solidly built and all the rest of it. And they and his mate was living in the house next door. So yeah, it was quite a thing. I mean, they were inseparable, really were. I mean, to have that sort of a relationship, I think for lifelong. I mean, they met when they was 3. At nursery school.
Wow. So, and your experience of this house on the morning of the wedding was very busy. It was kind of how you were describing it. There was chaos. Little frantic chaos, busy. Yeah.
It's typical sort of wedding day where people were sort of running around. I mean, last minute. And we'd all been out. The boys had all been out the night before and had a couple of jars. so the groom was about hungover, which made it even funnier because Petra was just beside herself as mother of the groom.
And it's great that in this dream too, you're not just a passive observer. You're actually a participant. You've got a responsibility. You've got a way to contribute, to feel involved. You've given that assignment to yourself in your own mind of you wouldn't just be standing by watching it all happen. You're one of the drivers. You're gonna make sure it all goes off without a hitch. I'd say that's probably a significant element to the concept involved. I'm working on what's going on. What can I give you as feedback? We talked. I don't know. We've been talking long enough. I've forgotten what I've said or when I said it, but I was talking about the idea of recurring dreams, and this may be so far outside my typical experience with dreamers that I don't know. Analyzing it is going to change anything. This seems like it's been such a lifelong pattern that talking to me and getting an answer on a specific type of dream is probably not going to change the fact that you're having dreams. And maybe if it's been such a good experience for you. You might not want that to happen. You might not want that to change. I mean, you may be looking forward to the next time you get to dream about your brother and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've still got a few chapters to go with his book yet.
Right? We don't know how it ends yet. We don't know what's the end of his story.
So I don't know where it's ending.
So, what if any events at the house that morning stand out to you in terms of things that you observed happening that seemed like the most distinct? I know you mentioned the mother kind of running around a little frantic. There was stuff about caterers and flowers, but that was probably when you got to the church.
No, the flowers were coming to the house. I mean, everybody was going to get carnations and stuff like that. She was chasing up. We were going into a church hall after for the wedding breakfast, and I got caterers in to do that, and she was just chasing the caterers up just because she could. She just wanted to do something.
And this was when you arrived at the breakfast at the hall?
No, this was in the morning. I mean, she was on the phone to him. And
she's okay. She's talking to him on the phone. I mean, you said chasing him. I'm seeing physically her getting involved in like, put that there, heat that up, and you kind of directing traffic.
No, that all happened till weeks before they'd gone out how they wanted it all set up and all the rest of it. So but this was the actual day of the wedding that was. It was such a funny day.
Oh yeah. So
and then it all went off absolutely sort of perfect. The photographer was right, and then everybody was having a really nice day. The wedding breakfast went off fine, and we sent off the bride and groom in the evening, and everybody carried on partying.
So, other than kind of the specifics of the arrangements in terms of flowers being delivered to the house and the mother being on the phone to the caterers, any other events, children running through the living room or snafus or other standout events in that morning at the house?
I don't think we've had any kids running around.
Fair enough.
We didn't have. There weren't. Yeah, I can't remember kids running around because the kids were sort of kind of grown up.
So okay, they hadn't had kids of their own yet, so we're not talking little ones. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going back a few years, obviously, but I mean, the kids would have been around the early 20s, I think, when they got married.
Gotcha.
So our kids are all grown up, and we were in sort of our 50s. So.
Okay. And then does anything stand out in terms of the visual memories or dream experiences of driving to the place, or was it more of like a scene change, morning done, we're at the hall?
No, I just remember just the groom and the best man sat in the back of the car and looking particularly green.
Okay, so you do have kind of a memory of performing your role of being the driver and getting them where they need to be, and kind of that imagery of them being in the car.
Yeah, so we'd hired an Aston Martin for the day. So it was a DB9.
I don't know if that's specifically significant, but maybe. Well, let's make a note of that too. So you got there, and what was it? A known local church, or kind of a amalgamation, or your own imaginary type of church or hall? I don't want to put ideas in your head or words in your mouth.
I can't remember the actual church itself. I mean, it was a church. I mean, it was a church. It was
gotcha.
a typical. It was local as well to where they were. So
gotcha.
It was only a mile or so to drive down the road, and
You don't have a strong impression of seeing the outside as you pulled up or anything?
No, it's got one of these sort of normal arches, to sort of the gatehouse and sort of and a drive up to the church doors. And
okay, so there was somewhat of a visual impression of seeing it as you approach. Okay,
a typical sort of village type church. It was wasn't that massive, but it wasn't. It was just I guess it had been a Norman type church.
Okay.
But,
very much in a style that you would have grown up with in your local area, kind of a familiar piece of architecture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
fair enough. And then you didn't linger outside. No other memorable or noteworthy events took place outside. You got inside and got down to business.
Yeah, I mean, I dropped the groom and the best man off. They walked in, and I went and parked up, and then went into the church and met up with my Dutch at the time, and then we waited for the bride to turn up.
Gotcha. So the next thing after entering the church was kind of places, please, and groom up front, and you took your seat.
Yeah.
Or were you? Where were you kind of in that arrangement? Were you back in the crowd or sitting up front?
I was just on the groom side, on the right hand side of the church, sort of a row or two back as far as I can recollect, and just watch the ceremony. As far as I can remember, nobody fluffed their lines or anything.
Right. So I was going to say, as far as how it played out, was it pretty stereotypical in terms of, hey, cue the music, she walks down, trade the rings, kiss, we're done. Nothing stands out about the process of the ceremony, or
some silly ass did cough, but at the moment, everybody got the just calls. That caused a bit of a titter.
That's an interesting occurrence. Yeah, I'm writing down everything, but that does stand out to you, that moment. So
when the old vicar says, "There's only one who got any just cause why these two shouldn't get married." And everybody's
and people's response was to laugh rather. The gasp. They weren't angry. They weren't shocked. They were like, "Oh, of course, just it's all very positive. All of this stuff. There's no sense of doom and gloom."
Looks at the door.
Say again. Sorry.
Everybody sort of turns around and looks at the door.
Yeah. You have to, just in case, right?
Yeah, expecting the bride to run off.
Yeah, you never know. Cold feet. So the ceremony kind of concluded, and then was there? How did it finish? I mean, they walk out together and showers of rice.
As far as I remember, it went out, had the pictures outside, and then the church hall was next door, so people didn't have to go far. They just wandered off after we'd had the pictures taken to the church hall, which was adjacent to the church.
Gotcha. Okay, and then you'd said that the process of the reception was also pretty standard. I mean, it's food, you're sitting around eating, people make speeches. What is kind of before we move on from the pictures, did you figure in the pictures, or were you more in the back looking at people, or were you?
I got in with the sort of the rest of the family, and
gotcha.
Didn't take a front row seat, as it were. Not like my brother, and he's Dutch, and
of course,
the mother of the bride, and
which also kind of explains why you're sitting maybe a couple rows back. It's your brother's kid, but there's also like your brother's immediate, his wife and their daughter, and then the et cetera, and you might be, you're one removed, so to speak, from the directly what's going on. So fair enough.
I was the uncle.
The uncle. Yeah, for sure. I know what that's like. So when you're when you're picturing these events happening, are you watching it from your own eyes, or are you kind of seeing a scene and you're seeing yourself third person sitting there? Where, how do you kind of imagine does it go back and forth, or is it?
I'm part of it. I'm seeing it through my eyes.
From your own perspective. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious about that. Something I forgot to ask.
But I'm kind of imagining how his life's going. It's seen from my perspective of what he's doing.
As if you were present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I mean, in the early days when I was dreaming, when he was a kid and going off to Sweden for the summers and Christmas, and I kind of imagined what was going on there, because he'd talk about it a bit when he come back, and we'd be full of it, and I'd be jealous.
Yeah, fair enough. So at the reception, did you play a part? Did you give a speech as well, or you were more of a observer?
No, I was just enjoying the food and the drink. I just applauded and laughed at the right times.
Right. just properly so. What stands out in terms of any events that might have happened there, kind of chronologically? The guests shuffle in, you're all sitting at tables. You remember someone gave the first speech? Was it noteworthy? Anything specific said by people?
No, I mean, the best man speech was a classic. I mean, he had people rolling around, holding their sides, crying and laughing, and yeah, his speech was pretty spectacular. I mean, I can't remember much of the other speeches, but yeah, his one just topped a lot.
Okay, so you do have an impression, at least, that other people did speak, but really his was the standout. That's what got him rolling in the aisles.
I mean, the groom just thanked everybody, and the normal, I suppose, thanked the bridesmaids and the maid of honor, but I think the thing that really stands out was the best man speech.
Okay.
Yeah, just one of those that just goes down in the annals of history. That you had to be there to witness it.
And did the dream go on much beyond that reception, or that kind of ended it? What's the last thing you remember?
Well, he kind of woke up, I guess.
Did you wake yourself up laughing by any chance?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of finished. I mean, I woke up. And fair
enough. And that's okay. So that's a lot of good.
I just woke up giggling.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just I do that sometimes.
And for the life of you couldn't say what he said or repeat his words. Just that the idea that it absolutely killed. And
yeah, it just was so funny. I couldn't do it justice. I really don't think I could.
There's interesting phenomena with this in the history of the dream books. I'm going to reference these things forever because it's how I'm teaching myself about what's gone before and what these stories have collected. And there are records of people laughing themselves awake from comedy they couldn't remember in their dream. Something was just hilarious. They couldn't describe it. They couldn't tell you what the person said to them, but it woke them up laughing. It just as much as some people would wake up screaming because they think they're being attacked. Same phenomenon. And the idea of people having exchanges where they come across very eloquent or witty in the moment, and they remember that, but this is not them in real life. It's more of an aspirational type of thing where they were like, oh, and I had the perfect comeback for that guy at that moment in the dream. They wake up very proud of themselves for their clever humor and whatnot. These are stories that have been collected about these different types of dream phenomenon. But this is a new one on me, this idea of an entire imaginary life of someone that, and to have it recur, I'm a little lost because it almost seems like the specifics of each dream are not as important maybe as the putting it all together, but I have to start somewhere. So it seems like there were three distinct phases of this dream, although they map very chronologically onto an actual wedding day, at the house getting ready, at the church to do the thing, and then at the reception afterwards.
But I mean, I can still see in my mind's eye some of the details of the day, and this dream was ages ago.
Yeah, that is amazing too. It's like, what is, our memory is these preserved snapshots of sound, of images that happen in real life, and the ability to see something, as you said, in our mind's eye is every bit as real, and it forms every bit as much a memory that you can then access. I saw that thing. I remember seeing that thing, even if it never happened. Whoa, that blows me away.
I mean, I can remember some of the dreams that I've had in the past of stuff that we would have done as young blokes. Some of the exercises that I've been on in the army, where he was there with his mate, and along with my mates, and nights out drinking and partying different places, and going off, having the opportunity to go off with him on one of his summer holidays to Sweden and going sailing, and being able to do that. I mean, his mate's family worked at a shipyard building yachts, and they had the opportunity to have a boat out during the summer, and I got the opportunity to go up for a few weeks sailing up there with them one summer.
Wow!
And that is stuck in my mind. And
every new detail you tell me about the things you've experienced is like, it's so detailed, it's so rich, it's so full. There's so much there.
But it kind of mirrors what I've done in my life as well. I mean, it's alongside what I've done, and sometimes I think that happened. No, it didn't. It must have done. I was there.
Right? Yeah.
And I wake up sometimes confused, thinking, did it happen?
Yeah. Well, you're probably doing one of the best things you can, which is start writing down what's a dream and what's not. It's like, and you get it recorded. So that's a new memory in your mind of like, okay, that really was a dream. Even if it seems a little fuzzy, you got that record to go back to.
So what I've actually started doing now is I've taken my 24 episodes. I've got the transcript of them, and I've put that into Adobe InDesign as a book form.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I've started to write my story, but alongside that, I've also been writing my brother's story for the stuff that I can remember, and how I imagined his life had gone. So some of this dream stuff's going to that. I mean, it's going to be a process.
Oh, for sure. And then you could almost do companion works, like first your life, your biography, and the second one, your brother, your dream experience of your brother's dream life, and kind of line them up where. That's one thing I was going to ask you too, is having reflected on this experience over decades, do you have a reason you believe you have these dreams? Why do you think they would occur to you?
I don't know. It's probably because of him being, I suppose. He was, and I suppose he would have been sort of my big brother, and I guess he's possibly still spiritually still somewhere knocking around, and maybe that's what's sort of getting into my head.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, give you the room to speak first on that subject, because you may have come to your own conclusions, but that was pretty close to what I was thinking, is this idea of, so how would I frame it? As you've been growing up, and when you were younger, maybe when do you remember the first one of these dreams happening? How old were you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm 64 now, and I've been dreaming all my life.
But the first dream about your brother, how far back can you? You were 10, you were 20. When did that kind of start?
God, it's as far as I can ever remember.
Okay. I think most folks' memory goes back to, 4 or 5 years old. So it's possible it's been really that long.
Yeah, 60 years.
And
I'm 64 now, so.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, 6 decades. Do you, what was your experience of hearing your mother talk about your deceased elder brother? Was it something she was always focused on, talked about frequently? Did she celebrate his birthday every year as you were growing up, that kind of thing?
I can't remember that from my mother, but I can remember talking to my grandmother about it.
Okay.
When I was a lad, I spent a lot of time around my nan's when I was growing up, and because she was there when my brother was born, and and she talked about it and said that he only lasted 16 hours, and I asked my mum about it, and we don't know why he died. He was at term and should have been fine, but it was.
It's my wife just poking her head in.
All right.
Yeah.
So I've kind of always known that I would have had an older brother had he survived.
And do you feel like looking back at those early memories of being told about it was, I don't want to call it an obsession, that's the wrong word, but it's the one that popped into my head. Was it always something that was present in your mind, as wondering during your waking hours, wondering what his life would have been like? Did you think about him often at that time? And
I can remember thinking, I should have an older brother to back me up sometimes when I got to a scrape.
Yeah. There's very much something of this idea of having an older brother that's important to you in some way, that it would be expressing itself in this entire life. So there's probably something, my thinking, you tell me if it resonates or not, but there was some concept in your mind built up that I could have had an older brother, and if I did, I wonder what that would have been like, and I wish I did. But at some point, fantasizing about that led to dreaming about it, led to this almost self-sustaining cycle of building dream upon dream of an entire life that, maybe wouldn't typically. This seems to be an extremely atypical experience. And maybe for the audience out there, if you're like thinking, well, that's happened to me, happens to me all the time, tell me. I would love to look into this phenomenon. I've just never heard of it before, to have such a lifelong experience of this nature.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have thoughts on that, the idea of when it started and what it meant to you throughout the years.
Yeah, I can certainly remember when I was a kid, sort of being picked on and wishing I had an older brother to come and sort the bugger out.
Yeah.
The funny part about it is I went to the old man and I said, I've got this bully that's picking on me. What should I do about it? He says, well, son, the best thing you can do is give him a thump. He says, make it a good one, because if you don't, he's going to give you a right good hiding.
Very true.
So
very true.
The next thing happens that all anybody's seen is me thumping him flying back into the school pond, and then I'm the bad guy, and
of course
I'll get carted off to the headmaster's office and get 6 of the best. That's real injustice. And if I had a big brother, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, very much. There's a that's what I'm feeling in terms of like what's important in this idea. I'm fleshing it out in my head, but there's something in the concept of having a big brother that was important to you for, I think, more than just someone to sort out the bullies. I think that's an important element, like one of many. But there's also, someone to look up to, someone to lead the way, someone to lean on in different circumstances, someone to seek advice from. And there's probably a lot of times during your life when you'd be like, if I had access to that resource, my life might be better. It might be something valuable to me.
I think it'd have been different.
Yeah.
I think I had a slightly different life. Not that I regret the one I've had. I mean, I've done some pretty spectacular things in my time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm through it. I managed to get this far.
Oh, yeah.
I've got another 38 years to go yet.
Right? Gotta get those letters.
Yeah. Telegram from the king.
Yeah. I'm looking at this and so this specific dream, this is what I do. I take one specific dream, try and pick it apart a little bit and look at the different elements. There's a bunch of little carrots I made. So what am I doing right now in my head? I'm looking at, okay, we got the specific dream. We can try and find out why this dream happened at this time in your life in this form. But I'm also wrestling with the idea of why this, it's such an experience outside of my expertise. This specific type of dream experience over a lifetime that I'm wondering, I'm a bit lost in terms of what do I make of this one dream? Why does that even matter in the context of the full picture? The full picture is just amazing in and of itself. I mean, I suppose if we got to the end of this and all I did is hear something I've never heard before, that's worth my time anyway. But
I can only apologize for that.
Right? But I also want it to be worth your time.
Sorry I put you such a test.
Right? No, I love it. That's how do we grow, right? We gotta sometimes we gotta fail, sometimes we gotta struggle to get there. Can you think of anything that was happening at the time this specific dream came to you that it might relate to the idea of a wedding? When you think of that time in your life, any of the surrounding events, does it inspire thoughts of a wedding in any way? Or some special occasions, something like that?
At the time I had this particular dream, there were a few weddings going on.
Okay.
Of people I knew. I mean, it wasn't my family, but we've been invited to 2 or 3 weddings, and that's when we'd just been to one particular wedding where it was just one of those picture postcard weddings where it was the sort of that little church and all the rest of it, and that's when I kind of had this dream that it had been my brother's boy getting married, and not the friend that we went to. So I think relating a similar experience, but seeing my brother, his wife, his mate, his wife, and his son, picturing them in it, because I've a fairly good idea of what they kind of look like, and that's I kind of where that dream came out of, I think.
Gotcha.
And I've had it 2 or 3 times. It's built on a couple of times, and
so you've had more than one dream of this kind where you're getting ready for a wedding and then watching it happen.
Yeah. So these dreams that, and they're all fairly vivid, of events that could have happened in our lives, and some of them actually happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
but when I've dreamt about them, they've involved my brother as well. So it's kind of weird, and it does feel sometimes that it is a parallel universe that's running alongside of stuff that we've done, that I've done. So
this phenomenon is so unique that I'm at a loss for offering reasons why I think that is unlikely. I can't say it is likely, but there's other times where I'm talking to people and it's like some things are more specific and more personal, and this one is such a bizarre lifelong phenomenon that it definitely feels more like Parting the Veil and looking at what's happening next door in a parallel reality. It really does. I mean, I don't know what to do with that psychic phenomena type stuff. Prophetic dreams, dreams that come true later on, like deja vu style. No idea what to do with that stuff. No, even if I were to say I think it's likely, would it be what causes it? What is happening there? Is it coming from are angels delivering messages, or are we connected to this psychic unconscious between people and we're getting resonant vibes from the strings of the universe? Hell if I know. Yeah. But this one really, I mean, it also makes sense that, so I can look at it from both directions, where it makes sense that it's possible to have a peek into an alternate universe.
Oh, back.
No worries. Very easy for me to edit. I got to say, I was just admiring the Aurora Borealis background. I love that. It's been nice the whole time. Nice background. Yeah. I did.
So there's something else that just occurred to me. Is that as far as I can recall, in all of the dreams that I've had, they all feature a real place.
Okay.
The right from the early days, the stuff in Sweden, the stuff around where we grew up, the places that we've been, all the way through, where I've seen him, his family, his mate. They're all places that we've been to.
Okay.
Or I've been to.
Do you consider yourself a very creative, imaginative person? Do you, like, some people are like, they can just imagine like crazy and they can think up all kinds of stuff. And some people are a little more concrete, a little more, what am I trying to say? I mean, I guess I've said it as best as I can. I mean, do you feel like you're a creative, imaginative type, or a little more the other way?
Not really. I mean, I can build on an idea that somebody else has come up with.
Gotcha.
I mean, that was part of one of my jobs. I was in psychological operations for the best part of 10 years.
Okay.
And you have focus groups, or you have storyboarding. You have that sort of meeting where coming up with different ideas for campaigns that we're working on, and somebody else will come up with will come up with an idea, and then I'm not great at coming up with ideas, but I'm good at sort of developing them. Gotcha. When somebody's come up with an idea and maybe do it this way.
Yeah,
this might work on this particular target audience, that sort of thing. But creatively, I'm not overly creative. I mean, other than sort of what I do with a podcast, I mean, I guess that's creative.
Sure,
being a creator.
Yeah,
but that's taking other people and then grilling them.
Yeah,
to get the best out of them, I guess.
Well, yeah, and it was a judgment-free question in terms of, like, we need people who are a little pie in the sky. They're very creative folks, and we need folks that are very practical, very down to earth. And I think they meld very well in terms of we need both. But not all of us, no man can be all things to all people or to himself. So you get the idea that that's what I was leaning towards, where the question came from in terms of when you mentioned most of the places or all the places in your dreams seemed like they were real places. So you're drawing very concrete examples. It's not, you're not building air castles in your dreams. You're saying I've seen this place before. Let's use that image. That makes sense. It's a very concrete representation of an actual location. That might factor in. I was trying to get to the idea while you're gone for a moment. I was thinking like how to formulate my question about. I don't want to put words in people's head, but I try to distill things that I'm thinking what might be a possibility. It's almost like you flipped a switch, if I may, way back in the day that said, you know what, I should have had an older brother. And your brain just made it happen for the rest of your life. It gave you, in your dreams, this entire lifetime of experiences with an older brother, because that's what you think or feel should have happened. I don't know if that resonates with you at all, or if you have thoughts on that. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I've ever known. Is that as far back as I can remember, I've dreamt of having this older brother and doing stuff with him and just seeing how his life's gone compared to mine.
How was your, if I may ask, friend group? Did you always have mates, or was it you struggled to kind of maintain relationships as a kid, or spent a lot of time alone, or that was never really a problem?
I've never really been a loner.
Okay.
I've always had acquaintances. I've only had one really, really close mate, and I've had lots of mates, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My best mate took his own life.
Oh, wow.
And that was 2005.
Okay, yeah.
So that's been tough being without him. But we were mates for a very, very long time. And,
so
it's difficult to lose a mate.
You can't think of any specific childhood experiences other than, you did mention that one where, you wish you'd had a older brother to sort that bully out. But that didn't seem like it started. It seems like it was going on before that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think it was about 7 or 8 when that happened. I moved up from infant school to junior school, and it happened when I got to junior school, first year. Yeah. So, and my brother had been sort of a year above me, and I think had he been around, I wouldn't have had the bully pick on me, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this does. So I've been trying to incorporate a little bit of my own experience. There is one person I know, I got to leave him nameless. They had an older brother that didn't live very long. And that person that they could have been, and the fact that they died so long ago, did factor into their life pretty, I won't say heavily, but there was a dynamic with their mother where that mother would always celebrate that deceased child's birthday every year. And so there was almost passed down from the mother, a kind of obsession with keeping this memory alive and thinking of the deceased person. So there's something going on with that there in terms of that. That's why I was asking some of the questions of like, was it your mother that told you about this? And was it something that was important to the family? So you took it on as, well, this must be important.
I can't ever remember celebrating his birthday.
Yeah, not specifically that. Gotcha.
So I can remember my nan telling me about having an older brother. I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. And then I spoke to my mum about it. Yeah, you would have done, and left it at that.
Yeah.
But but from that sort of time, maybe even before that, I don't know.
Gotcha.
It's been in a dream of some form or other as far back as I can never remember, about having a brother and seeing some of the stuff that he's done with his life.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I'm trying to wrap my head a little bit around why this specific type of phenomenon. I would love to give me an answer because I'm very curious, but I would also love to give you an answer. It's like, why did dreaming of the entire unfolding life of an older brother happen? Why that expression? What could have started it to? That's why I was trying to run through those ideas of, did something, if like say if it was made a big deal of by the family when you were young, you take that on as well, this must be important, and then you carry that with you. But this seems to be something that clicked in you on its own for its own reason. Very, very interesting.
I mean, I've been thinking about it a lot recently because I've started to write it down.
Yeah.
And trying to get it in some sort of chronological order of what I can remember. And I'd like to turn it into a book.
I think it very well could be. Yeah. I mean, just the conversation about it is fascinating.
So I've already started to write my book, and I've already started to write his book. And the two are fairly similar of what's gone on at different times. Obviously, he's done some different things to me, and it's trying to imagine what he's done, how he did it.
Yeah,
because some of the places he's been that I haven't. Those are sort of.
Would you
have to imagine? But
looking back on it, would you say
I've actually been to the places where he went to in Sweden when he was a lad, because I've been there, so that's not just in my mind's eye, but it's also physical, because I've visited the factory and I've visited the area.
Yeah, able to reference a real place.
Yeah.
When you look at how his life turned out, his life choices, does it seem like it was always better than yours? Not in a what am I trying to say? Not in a envious, jealous way, but more of a aspirational, like, well, he got it right where I got it wrong. Or was it kind of give and take? He screwed up too, and he wasn't always perfect.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't overly perfect. He academically, he was better than me because he didn't have dyslexia.
Gotcha.
He had a very, very good brain for picking up languages. He was a linguist. I think that stems back from speaking Swedish with his mate.
Yeah.
So they spoke Swedish when he went round to their house. So he learned from his mother to speak English, to speak Swedish, and then that paid off when he went to Sweden because he got that language skill there when he was at school. He did German, he did French, and he found it easy to pick up.
The way you talk about it, it's like he exists. And everything seems so logical. I mean, there's like a story for how did he get into linguistics? Well, it was all this series of events. It was genetic advantage and not having the disability. It was exposure to languages. It's building he's not living a fantastical life in terms of like a fantasy life. He's not, living in Lord of the Rings or anything, but everything is very much
a fairly
practical.
normal life. I mean, we played rugby together. he played number 10. I was 9. We played for the local rugby club, and we ended up playing rugby with the battalion.
Yeah.
So we were keen sportsmen, and we complimented each other on the rugby field. I mean, we knew what moves I was going to make. I knew where he would be at a particular time, and when I put the ball in, and I knew he'd be right. But I didn't even need to look where he was. I just throw the ball out, and he'd be there for it. So,
yeah.
So
and you're very much telling me these experiences as if they happened because you can remember them. This was a dream that I had with an experience with him.
This is how this sort of thing went. And
very interesting.
And these are the sort of dreams that I've had all the way through. And there's dozens and dozens of them where we've interacted and we've done the same things.
Yeah. Did you ever change what you were going to do or make decisions based on things you saw in your dreams, in terms of like looking at his example and saying, I'm going to follow it, or I'm going to do something different? Do you have experiences like that?
No, these are all events that have happened. I've never been able to look into the future, not as far as I can remember.
Well, I don't mean that necessarily. What I mean is you had a dream in which your brother featured, and after having that dream and kind of thinking through that, using him as a mirror or as a partner, your image of him as a partner to make decisions, have you come out of those dreams saying, I have a better idea of what I want to do or what I should do or how to solve that problem? Do you have any instances like that that can occur to you where you made a decision based on a dream, like, now that I thought it out, I know what I want or I know what I'm going to do?
I don't think so.
Nothing specific. Gotcha.
No, nothing leaps out. I mean, we've just lived our lives.
Yeah.
As they've kind of been. I mean, we've both been great sailors. I mean, we've both owned boats. He's obviously had a better boat than me because he's got better contacts than me.
Right.
But no, he's just trying to think if it's kind of all kind of mirrored or been events that I've been part of, and then he's been there as well when he hasn't.
Yeah.
But these are actual events that have actually happened. But he's been there, but hasn't been there. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, for this specific one here, the idea that there were other weddings going on, so weddings are on your mind. And then you have this dream where it's, okay, well, let's return to the world of my imagination and my nocturnal theories about what my brother's life would be like, and let's put him in a wedding and see how that plays out. It seems like it's been an overall pleasant experience that you would want to repeat in general. Like, you don't wake up from these dreams going, God, I hope I never have another one. It's always been kind of, I don't know how you describe it. Something that's been with you so long. There's probably comfort to that, but it's never been a traumatic experience you wished would stop, right?
No, I mean, I don't think I've had a bad one. I've never had a nightmare where we've been in together. I mean, we've been in some dodgy situations in conflict zones and stuff like that, but that stuff I've actually been in.
Yeah. That is truly
And,
fascinating. I mean, just the whole phenomenon. I'm a little. What do they say in your neck of the woods? Gobsmacked by the whole idea that it could be happening. Usually, what I would do, and I don't know if I can. I mean, or if it's useful. So I would take that specific dream, and I even made some notes. I made a lot of notes, but I made little markers to go back and look at different specific things. But in terms of, if we were to say why did this dream happen or what it was trying to say to you, it seems like most of these dreams don't have a message for you. It's more this aspirational experience is a way to put it, of like you've just enjoyed the experience of imagining you have a brother and that his life was good and that you had someone to look up to. You enjoyed it so much you brought it back a million times to keep experiencing and build on the story. That might be as much of an answer as I can give to this whole, my theory as to why it would be happening.
But that's the way I look at it. It's something that's always been there that hasn't.
Yeah. And then eventually it gets its own head of steam and it rolls because it happens again because it happened so many times before. It just becomes a habit. How that habit got started and what started, it's fascinating. If you get into your books and you're like, you figure it out, well, here's why. Here's why this was so important to me, why I needed it throughout my life, what it meant to me, how it helped me. I'd be fascinated to hear back about that, but I don't know that I don't think I have those answers for you. Right now,
I don't think I have them either.
Right, even not yet.
But it's something that I want to do is to get these books out.
For sure.
These two books, My Life and His Life, and where they've connected throughout the years.
Absolutely. No, that is fascinating, and I think working on them at the same time is probably an important process for you as well.
Yeah.
This reminds me of pretty famous stories of Robert Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island and all that. He is famously known for having, he says he dreamed plots to his books and short stories, that's where his imagination played itself out. So as you were telling me your stories, I kept wanting to remember to come back and tell you about, Robert Louis Stevenson, and that's pretty central to his, what he says made it possible for him to be an author, that it probably wouldn't have happened without those dream experiences giving him material to work with and say, well, that's a hell of a story. Yeah. I couldn't have come up with that on my own. And so, even though he did. Yeah.
So that's a project that's ongoing, and it's going to take a while.
Oh yeah,
because of my dyslexia, and I haven't got a clue how to write a book.
What do you say? You got another 38 years?
Yeah, about 38 years to get it right. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, if you feel like we explored it as much as we can, mined this experience for what we could get out of it, I'm good to let you go, get back to book writing. If you got more questions or more stories to tell about it, I'm happy to listen either which way.
I mean, I've got a book load at the moment that
true.
I'm working my way through.
We can't do the whole thing, the whole story here.
So the wee fella there, is he a British short hair?
I don't know. We call him Cece. That's short for cotton candy. It was my wife's mother's cat. We had to take him in. He's been around for a minute. He's probably like 10, 12 years old, something like that. Hi, Cece. He'll come back on camera.
Really dense, thick fur.
He is, yeah, and it never gets any longer. So, we've got too many cats, and I couldn't tell you. I think one of them's a tortoiseshell pattern. One of them's a tuxedo. Two of them are tuxedos with the black and the white. The other ones, I have no clue. Mutts. Couldn't tell you. One of them kind of looks like a Siamese, and one of them has blue eyes. I've never seen a cat with blue eyes in my life, and apparently it's not that rare. But yeah,
Blue eyes. It could be a British Shorthair if he's got really dense fur.
He's a lover. He's a scaredy cat and a lover. Like, he'll want to love on you, but if you touch him the wrong way, he will run and you won't see him for 2 hours. I didn't do anything. I was just trying to love you.
Yeah, so we got Ship's cat. He's a proper little bruiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's fascinating to see
cat.
different animals from around, different cats from around the world. Like, they got some in what is it, in Japan, that are like miniature cats and their legs are like this long. They're like 2 inches. They're just little. They never get any bigger.
Bizarre.
That's crazy. Yeah, they're so cute and ugly and cute at the same time. He wants to play. He's gonna take my skin off. All right. Well, if you feel satisfied with the experience and you've enjoyed having a conversation, I'll wrap it up and let you go.
I've enjoyed this. I'd say I haven't told anybody about my dreams of 10.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't come up in average conversation. Somebody would have to, reach out to you and say, hey, got any dreams? You're like, as a matter of fact, I got the strangest dream experience you've ever heard. Yes, you do. I've never come across this before. It's fantastically weird. In one of those ways where it's like, if you talk to enough people, after a while, some things start to get repetitive, and to be blindsided by something that's just such a unique phenomenon. I'm going to be thinking about this for days. Like, what do I make of that? What is, how do I work that into my theories? I don't know.
I can only apologize for putting all that stress on you.
Right? I do love being challenged and I hate failing, but it's what did I watch? I watched the Batman movie recently, and what is my horrible British accent, but Michael Caine says, why do we fall down, Master Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again. I love that. Well then, okay, I will wrap it up and say this has been my guest, Tim Heale. That's Heale. And you can find the Tim Heale podcast on YouTube and a variety of podcasting sites. And it is biographical conversations, ordinary people, extraordinary stories. And I got a little bit of a biography from our friend here too tonight. So I'll just say, by way of wrapping up my end of things, please stop what you're doing, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. Books for sale, coffee mug, direct donations. If you like what I do, I need your support, please and thank you. And Tim, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with me. I kept you waiting too long because I am technologically impaired and I completely opened the wrong meeting. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries, mate.
I appreciate it. You're very understanding, and sometimes I need that because I'm not perfect. I'm just a wizard. I'm not perfect.
I have a wand.
Right? As well one should. From one wizard to another.
Harry Potter lives on.
Exactly. All right, then I'll just say to everybody listening, hey, thanks for listening.